I think it's safe to say that no one here is surprised to see me, a woman, speaking before this promiscuous audience. But 185 years ago, most of you would have been outraged. A woman speaking publicly in the presence of men. It was indecent, immoral. And this outfit, the sight of a woman wearing pants would have caused such jeering and name-calling, you wouldn't have been able to hear me. I'm here tonight to remind us of the importance of recognizing our debt to the past as we look to the future. Concord, of course, is steeped in history. It's not uncommon to see men in tricorn hats and knee breeches, or women in 19th century hoop skirts. Tourists come from all over the world to learn about the revolution that began here in 1775, or to commune with the transcendentalists and authors of the 19th century. It's a wonderful legacy, even if most people never really get much beyond a picture postcard version of past lives. But tonight, I'm thinking about some of the other people from the past who helped to bring about change. I'm thinking, for example, about the women who helped to make it possible for me to speak before you. The first women who dared to speak before public audiences in Massachusetts in the 1830s were speaking in support of a very unpopular cause, the abolition of slavery. Most people disliked their message as much as they disapproved of their speaking it. Factories in Massachusetts in those days depended on the products of slave labor, raw materials such as cotton and indigo, and of course every household wanted sugar. A person who spoke out against slavery risked verbal and physical abuse, even threats of death. Yes, not just in the South, but here in Massachusetts too. One of the finest anti-slavery speakers, an African-American poet by the name of Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, explained the reason why. She said, men had discovered a fearful alchemy by which blood could be transformed into gold. Instead of listening to the cry of anguish, they listened to the ring of dollars and stooped to pick up the coin. Stirring words. The best orators of the 19th century were truly remarkable. But the women, even more than the men, suffered terrible caricature and ridicule in the press. The 19th century newspapers truly rivaled today's super PACs for their falsehoods and innuendo. And within the anti-slavery movement, women suffered many insults as well. The only cause that was more unpopular than abolition was the cause of rights for women. In the anti-slavery societies, it often seemed as though the men were more intent upon silencing the women than freeing the slaves. Naturally, this galvanized some of the women to stand up for their own rights. Before the Civil War in America, married women belonged to their husbands much as slaves belonged to their masters. They had no right to sign contracts. They had no legal right to their own earnings, to their children, to their clothing, to their own bodies, to their inherited property. one little girl in central Massachusetts, a girl named Lucy Stone, told her parents she'd rather die than marry if marriage meant such complete subjugation of the self. She became the first woman to make women's rights her life's work. What a remarkable person she was. She overcame obstacle after obstacle to become the first woman from Massachusetts to earn a college degree. Her first public speaking job was with the Anti-Slavery Society of Massachusetts. It soon became obvious that she had a remarkable gift. Her look was one of youthful innocence, and she had an extraordinarily beautiful voice. She could charm even the most hostile audiences and hold them in rapt attention. But Lucy wanted to speak out for women, so she struck out on her own. I am astonished by her fearlessness, and I am in awe of her talent. Even people who completely disagreed with her loved to hear her speak, and she did change their minds some of the time. As Elizabeth Cady Stanton later wrote, Lucy Stone was the first speaker who really stirred the nation's heart on the subject of women's wrongs. When I wrote a book about the transcendentalists and reformers of the 19th century, that sentence inspired my title, Stirring the Nation's Heart. When I began that project, I had no idea how much my own heart would also be stirred. Knowing people from the past deeply, in their strengths and weaknesses, in their struggles and triumphs and disappointments, can be a powerfully transforming experience. Lucy Stone and Frances Harper have reached across time to help me find courage. By knowing a little about their lives and their struggles, I understand better how difficult and how important it is to struggle for freedom and justice for all. When I think about the restrictions on women's lives in the first century of our democracy, it helps me understand the challenges faced by many women and girls in the world today. When I read the arguments in favor of slavery before the Civil War in the United States, it helps me see how important it is not to elevate property rights above human rights. History gives us perspective, and that is really the key. It helps us understand what is transient and what abides. History shows us the consequences of choices. Understanding history's messy realities instead of resting in comfortable myths about the past can help us decide how to live our lives today and how to leave a better world for generations of the future. Thank you.